Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oldham County Fiscal Court. I'm Judge Executive David Vogel. It's a little bit after 2, and we're happy to have all of you here today. If you brought a cell phone with you, we'd ask you to turn it to off or vibrate because they do interfere with our PA system. And now I'd ask everyone who's able to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Magistrate Likens. Here. Magistrate Tice.
Here.
Magistrate Leslie.
Here.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Here.
Magistrate Sparks.
Here.
Magistrate Eldridge.
Here.
Magistrate Dye.
Here.
Magistrate Logsdon.
Here.
Judge Vogel.
Here. Having all members of the Fiscal Court present, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
Yes. I'd like to add one thing toward the end. We can put it anywhere we want. But I had discussion with Kevin Nuss, quite a few police departments and fire departments about number signage, so that first responders will know where the address is of certain houses. So I just want to address everybody,
All right.
let you know about that.
How about if we make that, I'm going to delete item I, or is it L, from the L from the thing here, and we'll add the signage right there. How about that?
That's
Okay.
great.
All right, and also I'd like to add under the under item O, P, I guess the letter designation would be an appointment to the Code Enforcement Board. Anything else? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Now, I'll ask our clerk, Sheila, to please read the minutes from our previous meeting.
April 19th, 2016. The Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at a regular meeting at 2 p.m. with Judge Executive David Vogel, County Attorney John Carter, and the following magistrates in attendance: Brent Likens, Wayne Tice, Bob Leslie, Steve Greenwell, J.D. Sparks, Kevin Eldridge, Bob Dye, and Michael Logsdon. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Logsdon to approve the agenda, adding salt bid award and proposed amendments to the alcohol ordinance as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to approve the minutes of April 5th. Motion carried 8-0-1. Magistrate Logsdon abstained. Public comment. Julie Barr announced Election Day, May 17th, and the need for poll workers and alternates. Contact voter registration if interested, 222-0047. Jailer Mike Simpson presented information relating to jail finances and responded to questions from the court. Sheriff Deputy Mike Meese announced its annual drug take-back event Saturday, April 30th, 10 to 2 at LaGrange Fire Station 2 and Oldham County Police Department. Attorney Jason Neems introduced himself and announced he is running for the State House of Representatives for the 33rd District. Road Salt Bid Award. Motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Likens to award the road salt bid to Detroit Salt for $80.94 a ton. Motion carried unanimously. County Administration, Payables, motion carried by Magistrate Logsdon and seconded by Magistrate Leslie to approve the payables. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Leslie to approve the line item budget transfers. Motion carried 7-2. Magistrates Dye and Sparks voted no. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Likens to approve the interfund budget transfers. Motion carried unanimously. Community business, first reading ordinance for loan agreement with Stockyards Bank. Stan Clark presented for a first reading proposed ordinance number 16-220-119 relating to a loan agreement with Stockyards Bank for the new detention center project. The second reading public hearing will be May 3rd, 2016. Public hearing for the Old Zaring Road discontinuance as a county road. County Engineer Beth Stuber introduced for public hearing the application requesting a portion of the Old Zaring Road to be discontinued as a county road. Joshua Clubb, attorney for the applicants, was sworn in and presented testimony in support of the application. The following residents were sworn in and presented testimony opposing the application: George Parrish at 7611 Highway 329 in Brownsboro, Dean Hedges at 7606 Highway 329 in Brownsboro, Lloyd Fisher from Clarksville, Indiana, Judy Krask, 7415 Highway 329 Brownsboro, and Joseph McKinney, 7504 Highway 329 in Brownsboro. Rebuttal evidence was presented, and the applicant responded to questions from the court. After being sworn in, applicant property owner Dan Rector of 805 Rugby Place, Louisville, provided testimony supporting the application and responded to questions from the court. Discussion followed. Motion made by Judge Vogel and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to table the discussion. Motion carried 7-2 on a roll call vote. Magistrates Greenwell and Dye voted no. Judge Vogel and the following magistrates voted yes: Brent Lankins, Wayne Tice, Robert Leslie, J.D. Sparks, Kevin Eldridge, and Michael Logsdon. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Sparks to take a 5-minute recess. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to resume the meeting. Motion carried unanimously. First reading for the Briarwood Road Assessment Ordinance. Magistrate Greenwell summarized for a first reading proposed ordinance numbers 16-620-167, authorizing the expenditure of county funds to improve Briarwood Road in Borwick Farms 5, LaGrange, to county standards, to bring into the county road system and impose a special assessment on all abutting property owners. The second reading public hearing will be May 17, 2016. First reading, amendment to the alcohol ordinance. Judge Vogel summarized for a first reading proposed ordinance number 16-410-181, repealing and replacing ordinance number 16-410-76, relating to the sale of alcohol beverages in Oldham County. The second reading public hearing will be May 17th. Contracts, agreements, and resolutions. KYTC agreement, design phase, Spring Hill Trace Sidewalk Project. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Sparks to authorize the Judge Executive to sign resolution number 0104-1916 and the KYTC agreement relating to the Spring Hill Trace Sidewalk Project. Motion carried unanimously. AT&T participation agreement for the K1H3 rates, 911 services. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Sparks to authorize the Judge Executive to sign the AT&T contract agreement relating to phone rates for dispatch under the Kentucky Information Highway Plan. Motion carried unanimously. Committee recommendations and reports. HR Committee, Parks Labor Supervisor job description. Motion made by Magistrate Logsdon and seconded by Magistrate Lankins to approve the revised job description for Labor Supervisor. Motion carried 8-1. Magistrate Greenwell voted no. Personnel actions and board appointments. Police. Motion made by Magistrate Greenwell and seconded by Magistrate Eldridge to approve the step rate increase for Officer Jordan Harrod to $23.73 an hour, base rate effective April 1st, 2016. Motion carried unanimously. Parks and Recreation. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Leslie to accept the resignation of Aaron Blaine effective April 12th, 2016. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Leslie to rescind the resignation of Michael Hamilton as Parks Labor Supervisor, effective April 20th, 2016. Motion carried 8-1. Magistrate Greenwell voted no. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Dye to hire Taylor Hudnut as building monitor at $7.25 an hour, effective April 20th. Motion carried unanimously. Maintenance and dispatch. Motion made by Magistrate Lankins and seconded by Magistrate Sparks to accept the resignations of Tim Tyree effective May 2nd and Scott Betts effective April 14th. Motion carried unanimously. Board of Adjustments appointment. Motion made by Magistrate Eldridge and seconded by Magistrate Sparks to appoint David Pate to the Board of Adjustments with a term expiring April 19th, 2020. Motion carried unanimously. Ethics Commission appointment. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to reappoint Thomas Kamer to the Ethics Commission with a term expiring May 1st, 2019. Motion carried unanimously. Public comment, none. Other business and announcements. Magistrate Logsdon announced exit 14 ramp to I-71 northbound plans to reopen April 28th. Magistrate Eldridge stated Waste Pro will pick up any dumpsters left by In-N-Out Dumpsters by calling 502-969-7684. Magistrate Sparks announced the Standing IT Committee meetings will be the first Tuesday of the month quarterly, January, April, July, and October at 11 a.m. Magistrate Greenwell acknowledged the staff who helped make the county surplus auction a success. Motion made by Magistrate Leslie and seconded by Magistrate Greenwell to authorize the Oldham County Ministerial Association use of the courthouse lawn and gazebo for National Day of Prayer, May 5th. Motion carried unanimously. Magistrate Leslie announced the Standing Safety Committee meetings will be the third Tuesday of the month at 12 p.m., not meeting in January, April, July, and October. He stated the committee is working on a fireworks ordinance and address signage requirements for properties. John Carter stated that the state DUI conviction rate report has Oldham County as number 1 in the state. Oldham County's conviction rate for DUIs is 93.6. He announced delinquent property taxes should be paid to the county clerk's office or contact the county attorney's office to make payment arrangements. Judge Vogel announced for the record the following fiscal court committee standing meetings open to the public. Building and Maintenance, first Tuesday of the month quarterly, January, April, July, and October at 12 to 12:45. Economic Development, third Tuesday of the month at 12:30. Grants, first Tuesday of the month quarterly, January, April, July, October at 12:45. Human Resources, third Tuesday of the month at 11. Parks, third Tuesday of the month at 1:30. And Roads, first Tuesday of the month at 1 p.m. Motion made by Magistrate Sparks and seconded by Magistrate Likens to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously, and the meeting was adjourned at 5:40 p.m.
You've heard the reading of the minutes from our last meeting. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Time now for public comment. That's the time during our meeting when anyone from the community who would like to address the fiscal court about a community issue is able to do so. You'd have 4 minutes. Is there anybody here who would like to speak?
Can I make 2 quick comments before we start my time? Magistrate, if you have a GPS system and you put the 9-digit zip code in, you can't miss the homes. And it's difficult, I agree with you about the numbers. And 2, some idiot jaywalked in front of me right where that young lady was killed just as I was coming up. All right, today I want to talk to you about traffic.
I should have asked you to state your name.
Oh,
and
I'm
address,
sorry,
please.
John Nichols, 1515A, East Crystal Drive, mailing address, LaGrange. I live in the county, thank you. About a week or so ago, we had this environmental cleanup. Traffic was blocked up, that's the latest one I can think of. Every time we have a wreck, every time a police officer gives a citation, every time there's a broke down vehicle, there's always rubbernecking, stopping, blocking traffic up. Now, if you go to U of L, UK ball games, any of them, you always see they have people directing traffic. U of L has a great system. They get Papa John's emptied in no time. Why do we not have something like that for us? And we have a police chief, I'm sure, would come up with some great ideas to help out. I know this is not your job, but it starts someplace, and you're the elected people that we need to help for. And I think you should go public. If the state, if the county, or whoever doesn't agree, go public. And let's criticize these people, because that's lost production out there, environmental pollution, and just generally a constant block-up. And also I wanted to ask about, on the improvements to the I-71 proposal, can we do anything about exits 9A and B off the Gene Snyder? I believe that was designed by the same guy that designed the figure-8 racetrack over at the fairgrounds, or the one that used to be over on the outer loop. It's the same principle. Cars crossing each other. It's a constant hassle. I've come to the conclusion that our highway department is not the friend of the public. And I know we're always protecting everybody. They protect the workers, they protect everybody. How about the people that pay the bills and use these highways? How about doing something for us? And also I'm proposing too that we have some increases in speed limits around here, because that's the only way you can increase capacity of highway until you put concrete and asphalt down. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, John, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to public comment here? Okay.
Picks on me, it's not fair.
Won't have to.
Oh, okay.
All right.
As
State
you
your
all know,
name and address.
I'm John Black, Deputy County Judge Executive for Oldham County, 108 North Fifth Street, LaGrange, Kentucky. John Nichols is my friend. Want everybody to know that. However, I'm very saddened today that he has come here to give his frustration about our state highways, because I think today we have our state highway officials here today to speak to you all. And I'd just like to say on their behalf, Matt Bullock, District 5 engineer, Andrew Clifford, Tom Wright,
Tony?
Tony Harrod, and the public information officer, that in my time and your all's time, I don't think we've ever gotten any more state highway help funding wise than we have from the state of Kentucky. I think right now we've got about 80 or 90 million dollars worth of state funding going on in our county, and I just can't say enough about what they do for Oldham County. And as John knows, I'm his buddy, he's mine, but I just had to come up here today because it's the one day out of the year they come here, but yet they get blasted by Mr. Nichols. So they do a better job, and I think what you're talking about, Mr. Nichols, is all that's above their head and their ability.
Yeah, but it starts here.
I know, but yet I can't let that go undiscussed. So I just want to say that in defense of our state highway officials.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
I'm also going to say in defense of, let's say in response to one aspect, we do have, when something happens out on the interstate, we are very desperately, or let's say, we're trying very hard to get the I-71 widened, and KYTC is putting in an application to the federal government for funds to widen I-71 out to LaGrange. We certainly hope that application is successful. We've had, in the stretch of I-71 that consists of Oldham County, we've had about 100 accidents already this year. We have accidents on you can't really schedule them, but they do happen. And last year it was 279 accidents. That's one every 33 and a half hours. I mean, they are coming frequently. So I actually have the opposite point of view. You say increase speeds. I'd like to see them lowered, actually, because I think it might create a safer environment with the number of vehicles we have on the road. And that said, though, that when we do have an accident, our streets get clogged up, things happen, but we don't actually have a sufficient number of emergency personnel on duty at all times to be able to get out in direct traffic in a way that you think. I've raised that same question. Why don't we get out here and do this and this? Well, we've got, we actually don't have, you have to round up firemen and policemen and sheriff's deputies, and you'd have to mobilize a really big staff very fast to be able to direct the traffic in the way that we think it should be. So, and the state doesn't have the people to respond to that. The KYTC, they're stretched. They're out in different locations. Their crews can't drop whatever they're doing and get to a spot. Sometimes you can't even get to a spot where you could draft the traffic. But we're working on it. Believe me, it's a subject that comes up here a lot.
Team, though, to help us,
Right.
the public.
I agree with you. We all want that safety and efficiency, and are trying to find ways to implement it. Now, I think we had some other individuals for public comment here.
Good afternoon, Kevin Nuss. I'm your Emergency Management and Dispatch Director, and I was asked to come to talk real quickly about the burn ban that went into effect on Saturday, May 1st. And I just wanted to give a little, just a real quick presentation, a little history why, because we always around this time of the year get questions, why does the county do this? This is not a county burn ban. These are excerpts from a PowerPoint presentation from the state. And as you can see on this one, the ozone season, May through September, in the counties of Boone, Boyle, Bullitt, Campbell, Jefferson, Kenton, Lawrence, and Oldham counties, no open burning for land clearing is permitted, and other restrictions apply. Illegal burning can result in a $25,000 fine per day per violation, so it is a very serious incident. If someone from the state were to come in and find an illegal burn, they could fine someone up to $25,000 for a potential violation for that. The Kentucky Division of Air Quality, located in Frankfort, if anybody has questions about the burn ban or what they can do to burn, what they can't burn, there's an 800 number. It's 1-888-BURN-LAW, and that's 1-888-287-6529. And then also wanted to talk a little bit about where the exceptions come in, because it's not a total burn ban. It is for debris and stuff like that, but there are exceptions, and we're always asked where these exceptions come from, and they too come from the state. KAR 401 KAR 63 open burning says for those counties or portions of those counties which are designated in the ozone portion for the months of May, June, July, August, and September. During these months, this language is exactly as it is in our ordinance, county ordinance, for the cooking of human consumption, for the prevention of fire hazard, a bona fide training of fire departments, basically a spill, a recognized agricultural or silvicultural or wildlife exception, ceremonial purposes. So those are in our ordinance, but they come from the KAR from the state. And then finally, I'd like to just address real quickly the ordinance itself. Obviously, this is our Oldham County ordinance, which addresses burning. And I always get asked the question, well, what designates a agricultural burn? And it is defined in our ordinance. A recognized agricultural, silvicultural, range, or wildlife management practice means burning recognized by the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, the State Department of Agriculture, the Kentucky Division of Forestry, the United States Forest Service, and the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, or the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So we don't make the determination as to what an agricultural burn or silvicultural burn is in Oldham County, and that's why it's important to call the 888 burn law number. If you have a question, those folks up there are the ones that can help you during this time. I know the burn ban went into effect Saturday, and Sunday we had some very bad storms come through the county. We've received several phone calls from folks in the county wanting an extension on the burn ban or a waiver. Again, the county just has no recourse to offer anybody a waiver on the ban. This is a state-regulated ban. And again, the fine is $25,000. The fire departments are all aware of it. As we get complaints at OCD, we will send fire units out to investigate. Most of the time, they will give the person, well, all the time, they'll give the person a warning the first time. If they need to put the fire out, they will. Sometimes on repeat offenders, they have cited folks. The fire departments do have citation power in this, so they don't want to do that. They want to be more of an educational arm, so the first time, maybe even the second time, they'll come out and give you a warning and put the fire out. After that, they do have citation power. So I just want to give a quick overview about what the burn ban is and remind everybody that it is in effect until the end of September. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Register Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. Kevin, misery doesn't always love company, but how is Shelby County not in this?
Again, this is designated by the state. It's basically, we used to interpret this as the I-71 corridor. Basically, it's for ozone pollution. I know 64 runs through Shelby County, but it's historically been from north to south, from Bullitt County up through 65 through 71.
Not only does I-64 run through Shelby County, but a widened I-64 runs through Shelby County.
I don't have the answer to that, Magistrate, to be honest with you.
Magistrate Leslie.
I can probably help you a little bit with that. Some years ago, Bob Dybel and another magistrate and myself met because we were required to have a burn ban. And when you looked at the topography of Oldham County, the Interstate 71 corridor is actually in a valley. And the smog from Jefferson County would generally come up through our valley and stagnate through the summertime. So that's originally what the burn ban area was. And then the state decided to include other areas because during the summertime, we have a tendency to have stagnant air, and so air doesn't flow through and blow the ozone away. And so the state decided in their infinite wisdom to increase it to all these other areas. But that's just a little bit of history about where this came from.
Thank you. Right, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you all.
Next,
Judge?
okay, this is Deputy Meese from the Sheriff's Department. Welcome.
Thank you. Sir, I wanted to bring to the court's attention the results of our drug take-back that we had on April 30th, this past Saturday here in Oldham County. As part of the partnership with the DEA, the Oldham County Police Department and Sheriff's Office conducted a joint DEA drug take-back event at 2 locations, the County Police Headquarters on 393 and the LaGrange Fire Station 2 in Buckner. As a result of that, Saturday was actually the largest drug take-back that we've had to date in Oldham County. Over 230 pounds, thousands of prescription narcotics were turned in by concerned county residents for disposal, as well as hundreds of used and unused syringes for proper disposal. Unfortunately, in Kentucky, Kentuckians continue to die each month from prescription overdoses at a higher rate than car vehicular accidents. So this was a tremendous effort, and all of these drugs were turned over to the DEA for proper disposal. I also wanted to commend Andy Hall and Tony Harrod from State Transportation. Each drug take-back, they go out of their way to make sure that we have proper signage and things to assist us in this drug take-back.
Well, we're very appreciative of that and the effort the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department made to get these drugs off the street. I know that Oxycontin and a bunch of other dangerous things were rounded up, and the fewer out there, the better off we all are.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll have another take-back again next spring.
Judge, isn't there a box or something at the police department
Yes,
always?
we do have 2 receptacles at Oldham County Police. You can stop by there anytime from 8:30 to 5, Monday through Friday, and there are locked, secure receptacles to deposit prescription drugs into.
Hi, I'm Jen Shane, the Watershed Coordinator for Curry's Fork Watershed with the Oldham County Fiscal Court. And that was one of the things on my list was to thank the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department for their drug take-back. And they even mentioned that waterways are another place that those things end up. A lot of people dump them down their toilets and things like that, and they end up in our drinking water. And so it's really important for waterways as well for the drug take-back. So thank you to them. But the main thing I wanted to talk to you about today was to invite you and the public to come to our upcoming public meeting. That's next Thursday, May 12th. And that is going to be a watershed education dinner. We're calling it Curry's Fork Fest. But it's free and open to the public. If you could let me know that you're coming, that would be terrific to make sure that we have enough food for everybody. So people can contact me through just calling me at 502-222-1476 or sending me an email at jshane, SHEAN, at oldhamcounty.gov. But just some of the details, it's going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. at the John Black Center, and we're going to have local musicians, and Ollie the Otter is going to be there, as well as a local favorite barbecue restaurant is catering it. It's just a modest meal. You're not going to go back for thirds or fourths or anything, but it'll feed you. And people that are interested in finding out about cleaner water in our local streams, what we're doing as the county and what local residents can do in their own homes and on their own landscape, what we can all do together to help Oldham County be the beautiful and clean place that it is and help it get further along in that goal.
All right, thank you. Any questions about that? That's a week from Thursday at 6 PM at the community
At
center.
John Black.
Right, free dinner
Yep.
for Curry's Fork or anyone else interested in water
Anybody in the
quality.
county.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, I don't see anyone else. I'll close public comment and go on to the first item, the next item on the agenda, and that's our annual presentation from KYTC regarding the Rural Secondary Road Program. I'd like to welcome our district engineer for KYTC, Matt Bullock, who's brought several staff members with him, and despite earlier admonition here, we appreciate everything KYTC is doing to work with us.
Thank you, Judge. Matt Bullock, KYTC District 5 Chief Engineer. And I appreciate Mr. Nichols' comments. We share a lot of the same frustrations on I-71, and as you know, we've been working pretty hard, especially in the last several years, with Senator Ernie Harris on getting some funds and some projects started on there. So it does start here. It takes a lot to get to where we need to get to. Just one quick thing about 71. It's the last tight, narrow interstate coming into Louisville that we have right now. With a lot of traffic. The terrain doesn't help the situation, as you know, high speeds, differential speeds. So there are a lot of things that can be done, and very slowly we're going to work towards getting those things done. So I'd like to address that we are very slowly working on those things. But you're right, the resources are a major obstacle. We can't just throw all of our resources into directing traffic when an emergency comes up on the interstate, but we certainly do help, and sometimes we spend hours upon hours at the ramps and so forth doing traffic control with local enforcement. So with that, I will go ahead into what I'm here for today. As usual, this is an annual event. I come to talk to you guys about the Rural Secondary Road Program for resurfacing, but as always, I can answer any questions you may have. As long as you need me to stay, I'll stay. But let me jump into the Rural Secondary Program. If you remember last year, I came to talk to you guys, and of course the gas tax issue with the General Assembly was a major issue. The gas tax, as the term they used was the floor was frozen, so it was going to drop because the wholesale price of gas was going to drop so much. That gas tax follows it down. So the floor was frozen, it stopped it from going all the way down to where it could, but we still lost 6+ cents of gas tax revenue. And each penny of that gas tax is about $30 million. So statewide, we lost nearly $200 million. And one of the places that gets pulled, adjusted is the rural secondary, the funds that go there, because that's the gas tax is really what funds that FIS formula, where they have the formula distribution over the counties. So last year was the big hit. It was about $30 million out of the rural secondary program. This year it's more stable. Also, you may remember last year we made the recommendation for doing Rose Island Road. We had to cut that back. We did end up doing 1694 Gum Street from 329 to about Mason Lane, I believe, and we finished that up last October, right before Iron Man came about. So this year, we're fortunate that the section of 1694 in Oldham County will be doing that this year. I believe it's the whole section. So jumping right in there, our recommendation for this year is Rose Island Road, and it's from mile point 0 to the 1793. So 3.096 miles. We also have Covington Ridge Road, 524. And we kept that one kind of generic. It's for patching in various locations over the whole distance, all 12 miles of that. As a footnote to that 524, Tony, that's the one we're going to be doing the drainage work on. Yeah. Pretty soon we're going to be doing some, you may remember a couple years ago we did some work on the hill heading down into Westport, where we put some cross drains in, did some ditching and so forth, because we have a water problem down there where water gets over the road and washes up on those in those roadside ditches. washes out the sides, makes some steep drop-offs. So we're going to be working on the hill coming up coming up here pretty soon, putting in some cross drains. We'll let you guys know, of course, because we're going to have to close that section of the roadway for probably a week or so. And we'll let you all know when that goes on. But the last item there is patching that will supplement, I guess, do some patchwork in various locations, that whole stretch of roadway. As you know, the other expenses that come out of that fund are the general maintenance of the RS roads. That is about $5,145 per mile for all 74 miles of RS classified roads in Oldham County. That adds up to $382,500. And then what's remaining is goes towards the resurfacing and patch work. And then there's that small county judge expense, $3,862, is the same that it's been for many, many years. Does anybody have any questions about the RS recommendations?
Magistrate Logston.
Thank you for coming up here today. I don't have any questions on the rural, but is there any way we can work on some kind of, and we talked about this out in the hallway, to keep trucks from going over railroad crossing there in Crestwood? This is a very dangerous situation. I don't know what can be done with it, but someday, we had a can of soup, train hit soup truck one time, but thank God it wasn't some hydrochloric acid or something that escaped. But is there any way that we can work with engineers to keep that from happening somehow?
Yeah, I know about that wreck, but I didn't know if they actually came, which direction did they go over that track?
Most of them are going, I call south. They're going over and coming back, but there's been a few of them try to go over top of it.
Towards the school? They're going
Right, towards the school.
Okay.
But there's been a few of them try to go over top of it also. So it's happened in both directions. And it seems like it's once a week anymore. And I might be exaggerating that for a little bit, but it's at least once or twice a month.
There's been a lot of ideas that have been talked about and discussed. I know I have with you guys over the years. Nobody has really taken up any of those because none of them are real easy, I guess. There's some drastic measures like closing the road. That's one option. I think we talked about a height barrier type of thing. And I think you all have asked about maybe doing that. And I think our answer was maybe go ahead, but we're not going to be a part of it because we didn't want to have to clean up and whenever something dragged and hit it. I mean, there are some expensive options that we've used. For example, on 3rd Street Road around U of L's campus near Speed School, there's that low railroad viaduct. It's opposite. It's too low instead of something where it's scraping bottom. But we actually put in a pretty expensive height detection system there. So if you're traveling either on Eastern Parkway westbound or south on 3rd Street, and it reads the top of your trailer. If it's too tall, lights are flashing and a warning sign comes up. You know how many people have just kept on going? Too many. So if there was an answer that was easy and relatively expensive, I guess we would have already done it. I don't have an answer really.
So are you saying that you're willing to allow us to install a height barrier in there?
The only thing I would need to check on, and I can't think of anything that would legally not allow that. Obviously, there's very small examples in drive-throughs at restaurants, but that's a little different. But I don't know there's anything legally that says you cannot do that. I just didn't want to have our guys to go out there and every time that it's hit, knocked over, whatever, to have to go maintain.
Seems like most truck drivers would, if they see that, would recognize a problem pretty fast. I mean,
if it's put in the right place and it's put at the right height.
Maybe with some kind of signage. Right now, the signage, they don't see it. If they see it at all, they see it, it's too late. They're already into the turn there. And we're talking about railroad crossing in Crestwood where it's a couple of laundromats or dry cleaners in that area and near Caldwell Banker. Trucks get trying to go over the railroad track there, and they can't get their bottom over the track. And we have been fortunate not to have somebody killed there, frankly. And we, a couple of years ago, were able to stop a train between LaGrange and Crestwood that just stopped, a couple hundred feet before it was about to hit the truck. You can't stop a train on short notice. I mean, they need miles to slow down if they're moving. So I don't know what the solution is. Either a height barrier that truckers would recognize with a sign. The best sign in this area is down in Hospital Curve, where they've got that truck tipping over when you're heading north. Man, you see that, you instantly know what that's telling you. And some signage like that with a height barrier, I think, would maybe stop people from trying to get under there with these big 18-wheelers.
I've seen the ones where they have a height barrier, but then they have chains coming down and a movable one below it that they hit first, and it's so significant that it doesn't knock their load off or anything, but when they whack that big one that can move, they're probably not going to go any further. So I wonder if that'd work. Well,
We don't want anybody even turning in there to hit the height. I mean, they need to recognize before they even make that turn that it's a bad move.
It should be up there by the gas station and but when we get done talking about this, I want to ask about Old Henry.
Okay. Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. Matt, I called and talked to somebody in your office about this problem after the soup truck got hit, and they said legally they can't keep trucks from not crossing that crossing. I have noticed that there have been new signs put there that say all trucks may bottom out. In other words, there's a sign there that shows one bottoming out, and then there's a sign below that, I think now, that says all trucks. That's possible. So before, it looked like only a lowboy trailer would do it, whereas a standard semi-trailer could do it, depending on the angle and all that. So it all boils down to where we don't have truck drivers much anymore. We got people that follow Garmin, and they just keep plowing ahead, and they just keep watching that thing on their dash, and they don't look at the possibilities. So.
All right. So you see that's on our mind, and I'd like to ask you about a couple things, and then we can get the bridge and Highway 22. That should be completed pretty soon, would you say?
Well, yes, the end of the month is when end of June, I'm sorry, the end of June is when I've been told. Original completion was either beginning or the middle of the May of this month. We've had a lot of utility delays that could have actually made it a lot longer, but as of this morning, I was told probably the end of June.
I know I have in my file a letter from you a couple of years ago that said that once all the work at 22 and 329 were completed, you would consider having another traffic analysis. Many people in Centerfield would like a light there. They're afraid to turn left off 329. We've had the issue about certain times of the day, there's no need for it. Other times of the day, it's a very busy intersection. So I hope that we can, at that time, look at that again, because it's a point that people are reminding me of frequently, and because we said we'd try to do something about it, but nothing's happened. But maybe the new intersection will make things better, but there'll still be that left turn coming off 329 regardless.
Yes, gotcha.
Okay, and my last question before I let Magistrate Sparks ask his is that we had a tragic death here at 146 and Highway 53 a couple of months ago. Was there any thought about how we could make that? And John said he just about got whacked before he came in the meeting here. Anything we can do to make that intersection safer?
Besides, I believe that we're resurfacing the intersection this summer, and I think we're going to do some enhanced markings in that regard. But of course, discussion of a full-blown traffic signal has occurred. Discussion that would certainly lay the foundation for a safer intersection, but I temper that by saying that I don't know if this traffic signal can work very well there. You would have to have railroad preemption, and what that means is when you have a train crossing there on Main Street, it's so close to that signal. When a train came, it would have to take over the signal operation and make sure that let cars out of there so that you don't have anybody backed up, because that distance between 146 and Main Street there is pretty close, and if you had a red on that leg of the signal, that you have the issue of people backing out onto the tracks. We have that problem in various locations, so that would be something that had to be seriously studied, and I don't even know if it's possible with preemption. So you also have four-way stop prior to that, so there are a lot of issues. So I always like doing these phased approaches. What I don't have for you today off the top of my head is what our new markings are. They're enhanced crosswalks, but there's something that's better than what's out there. I would like to get those implemented in, see how it goes. If we still have problems, then we take that next step, as opposed to throwing all our eggs into the basket of the traffic signal and how we're going to work on the preemption thing.
Okay, thank you. Magistrate Leslie, or Magistrate Greenwell and Magistrate
No,
Leslie. Magistrate Sparks and then Magistrate Leslie.
Tony, on 1818, there's a big dip down. I think the street that's right next to that is Spear Lane. Is it Spear Lane or something like that? But it's a big dip down and then a hard turn to the left, and there's a guardrail there, but it's down past where the road starts to curve, and it's actually halfway smashed into the road because it's been hit so many times. What can I do to get that guardrail extended 15, 20 feet up to where the road actually starts turning?
Might take a look at it. I'm not familiar with it off the top of my head, and these guys are, so.
I'll show them exactly what I'm talking about. Thank you. Last thing, how are we doing on Old Henry? When am I going to see some dirt turning on that?
Talking about the Old Henry to Ash Avenue?
Yes.
We are in the midst still of buying all the right-of-way. It's been a long process. I forgot how many parcels we have, somewhere in the 100 range, whatever, that we have to purchase. The problem we're having right now with some of these larger projects is the utility companies and their relocation efforts. We have them spread out so thin in some areas. In particular, we have a project in Bullitt County where all the utility relocation is within the contract, and the contract is 2.5 to 3 years long. Folks like AT&T and LG&E tell us that they don't have the resources to not only design the relocations, but actually to go out there and relocate. So, with that said, they've said that even though we may be done buying right-of-way here this summer or this fall, they're not going to be able to get to us until later this year and finish until middle of next year. So right now we have a tentative construction start of fall of 17 on Old Henry Road.
How about the first part, like right from Ash Avenue up to, I guess, Streamers area, where there is no road now and everything? I mean, you don't have utilities going through that area, right?
Correct.
Is there any way to start, working on that part where it is ready to go? Because I do want to see the whole redo all the way up to the Gene Snyder, but if we could just get that road started right down there, it would relieve that danger zone in Village Green subdivision. So, because I don't want to see some kid get killed. People are going 45 miles through there, cutting through. They have for years, but they get more bold every day.
Well, we do have a bridge down there at the end, right before you get to Ash Avenue. And you're right, there is some cross-country alignment there. We haven't really, with us being this far along, I guess, we haven't looked into breaking out any kind of contracts. A lot of times when you break out something, it sets back the rest of the contract some. And an example I give you is right here in Oldham County, in Kentucky 393. We probably would be building the whole 393 maybe right now, as opposed to breaking it out and doing the Commerce Parkway section at the interstate. And again, it's a utility thing. We get the utility companies engaged and get them concentrating, working on something quicker than they probably normally would. And then it's hard to get them recircled back around for the rest of the project. So we've done that in some isolated cases, but it's not too common for us because sometimes it can set you back.
I'm just thinking, since that is, like you say, cross-country in there.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a perfect opportunity to, excuse it, but I understand your, situation. Thank you.
Magistrate Leslie.
Yes, thanks, Matt, for coming here today. I appreciate your presentation every time you come and the other people that you come that work with you. I always appreciate it. I have a tendency to contact Tony various times, and he's always been very, very helpful. As for 146 and 53, I go through there on a frequent basis. And the biggest problem that I see with that intersection is that people aren't paying attention. They're on their phones, or they're doing one thing or another, and one car goes and another car goes right after it. And you just have to be very, very careful because people do not pay attention. They don't know the traffic laws and different things of that nature. And I don't know how you're going to change people's behavior for not paying attention when they're driving on the road. So that's one aspect. As for 524, you spent an awful lot of money on that in the last few years. I think over $600,000 or something like that. But you're having to go back now. Is it primarily due to water drainage through that particular section of the road?
Yes. Tony, I don't know if you want to come up and talk more specifics or not. I don't want to speak for you. Tony Harrod, Maintenance Engineer, District 5.
Yeah, basically, we're going to do the same thing on Hurricane Hollow Hill, the hill going out, as we did on the hill going down into Westport. We're going to re-ditch that through there, line that with channel liner, put in a series of cross drains so that water doesn't sheet flow across the road and erode that out.
Yeah, because I know it's deteriorated badly
Yeah,
since
it
you.
has. And we would have already started, but, now we have to get approval, with the new administration coming in, we have to get approval to spend money for materials. So we've kind of been waiting on that, and I was a little nervous about not being able to spend that, but it was approved. So we're going to wrap up some work that we've got going with the maintenance crew, and then we'll start on that project.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Tony.
Magistrate Eldridge.
Thank you, Judge. Matt, I'd echo, we appreciate you coming out, and Tony is always very responsive. Appreciate that. Mr. Greenwell brought up the point that so many of the truck drivers today are not truck drivers, they're just following Garmin. A simple correction for Crestwood may be just that. About 2 years ago, Garmin came out with a special Garmin package for truckers. It's a little bit more money, but it's a 7-inch screen, highlights way stations, and also gives you bridge heights. It'd be hard to get a hold of the right person there, but I would think they could also have a notation for too much incline there to where it would flag them from not going on that road as well. So how you would get a hold of the right person at Garmin, but that would be a simple fix for that because they are truly all watching the Garmins these days. Thank you.
Magistrate Dye.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out. It's always good to see you. I know one question I have is the left turn lane in Crestwood. I believe you've got, last we spoke, I think you had all your right-of-way bought, and you're just waiting on utility relocation.
Yeah, similar that I talked about the Old Henry, except this one's a little bit ahead because we're already done with the right-of-way acquisition on that. I got listed here March of next year. And that's, we've talked about it before, that one is a nightmare for the utility companies.
Yeah,
and
it is, yes.
we've had them prioritize where we want them to go next, and that's where that one's come up, because it's going to engage them pretty seriously
So the construction will start in March?
of next year, yeah.
And that's relatively short construction time, isn't it?
If we truly let it in March, then that's one construction season, easy, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be done the end of next year.
Yes.
Okay, thank you much.
Magistrate Greenwell.
Thank you, Judge. Matt, real quick, on your cost per mile for the maintenance and traffic, it's $5,145. Does that include snow removal?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's general maintenance, everything that we do to maintain the roadway, including that.
Thank you.
All right, Matt, thank you for coming out today and your staff.
Thank you.
Appreciate your cooperation, and we've asked quite a few questions today. We always ask questions, and it's not just today, it's all the time. But
That's fine.
appreciate all the cooperation, and I know you guys are doing the most you can for us, so thank you.
Judge, can I jump in here? I was kind of waiting for my turn. I wanted to ask you about the US 42 widening the third lane from Jefferson County to Ridgemore.
Ridgemore, yeah. Same thing with the utilities. We're still, I believe we're still purchasing the last parcels we need on that, but we have a tentative schedule on that for fall of next year.
For utilities or road
Or
construction?
start construction.
And one other thing I'd kind of like to bring up with Tony is the same thing I've talked to our county engineer about. I would like to see some of these rural secondary roads improved instead of just blacktopped. It seems like they just come in and blacktop them in one day and they're gone. They need to be shouldered. You could do that with state forces or private contractor, but you know, maybe even take a little kink out of the road or improve the drainage instead of just blatantly going in and blacktopping a road and adding an inch of surface. It just seems that I've told our county engineer that I would like to see us do the same thing. Instead of paving a dozen roads, let's fix 10 and improve those. But and the one I'm specifically talking about is Rose Island Road, because I know that has some bad drop-offs and some bad drainage problems. Unfortunately, you fix the road, you widen it, you increase people that drive faster, but I would like to see Rose Island Road really looked at, because it has some dangerous places if you get off the road.
It's definitely narrowed down through there.
Yeah.
The ditches are right up next to the edge of the pavement. There's not much you can do on the 42 side because it's all a bank, and you know it's a bad road. And I agree with you that if we had we just have a limited number of funding for rural secondary. Last year we got $190,000, and we got, you know, part of that 1694 pavement. That was it. So you know, with the maintenance crew I've got, we have installed some cross drains near 1793, and we did that drainage improvement on the hill, 1793, and all that. We're just kind of limited what we can do by contract, and you know, our people. I've got 11 guys that try to take care of the whole county, and we do what we can do, but sometimes that's not enough, and I understand that.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Judge,
Yes, Mr. Eldridge.
just add one more question perhaps for Mr. Greenwell. This number, Matt, Mr. Bullock, is based on the number of miles that we have in the program, correct?
Yeah, 74.
How often have we updated that? Have we updated that in these last years as we've added on some subdivisions and things? Or has that number been the same for a lot of years?
You talk about the 74? Well, that would be something that we would actually do,
Well, you would-
reclassify roads. We do that, probably averages about every 4 or 5 years. We'll relook at roads and make sure that everything is appropriately classified, because obviously it's very important for funding reasons. When we look at this, it may be more like 3 or 4 years, but anyway, when we look at that, we look at RS roads in particular because of this funding. If you know, we have some counties where we have a hard time spending all of our RS funds, and then other ones we can't stretch them far enough. So we actually do that, and that 74 number can go up or down a little bit here or there when we do that reclassification.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Right, thank you. Appreciate working with you. And I thank the other members of KYTC who came out today. We'll move on now to the next item on our agenda, and this is a presentation by the Hope Health Clinic. And I'm going to ask, I guess Janet Warren will be here, and Marcia Bevan. And Imagine you thought your time would never come, but it finally has. So welcome to Fiscal Court.
Oh, I'm sorry. It'll take me a minute to figure this out. Oops, I lost my presentation. Hold on. All you need to do is hit.
All right, this would be Marcia here.
Marcia Biven. Thank you. Thank you, Judge, and thank you for allowing us to come and talk to you about Hope Health Clinic. We came a few years ago, and we're glad to come back. I am the chair of the board of Hope Health Clinic. We do have some of our board members here with us today. Until about 2 years ago, I was assistant vice president at Baptist Health LaGrange, which you all may remember seeing me there. And when I retired, I became the chair of the board of the Hope Health Clinic. In my role as assistant vice president, I was chairing the task force that assessed the need for a health clinic and subsequently opened it under the then ownership of the Oldham County Ministerial Association. We did open in September of 2011. And as you are aware, a lot has happened in the healthcare world since then. We're going into our 5th year, and there have been changes in, of course, health insurance, and we had to adapt to those changes. We changed kind of our scope, who we serve, how we serve, and we also changed organizationally. And so a little over a year ago, or a year and a half ago, we became our own 501c3 with the blessing of Oldham County Ministerial Association. We like to say that they gave us our roots and then they gave us our wings. And we felt that was necessary for us to become more sustainable into the future. So we do have our own board that is devoted to our mission, which is to deliver and coordinate quality medical care in a Christ-honoring environment to those who lack access to health care. And the need is really still here. Healthcare is very complex, and we hope that our presentation will shed some light on that complexity and update you on what we've been doing at Hope Health Clinic. And I'll introduce Janet.
Okay, as Marcia said, things have changed dramatically in the world of healthcare, and in the time that I've been at Hope Health Clinic, we've seen those changes as well. With the implementation of the Affordable Health Care Act, we have adapted. We've also looked for the areas where there are gaps in care for the citizens in our community and made sure that we can help fill those gaps. Today, we are seeing patients ages 4 and above who are at 250% of the poverty level or below. And that's a complex formula. It's based on each individual in the family, what their monthly or annual income is, and it's something that we review on every patient who comes to the clinic. At this point in time, based on the information from the Kaiser Family Health Foundation, which is noted in the industry of providing current and vital statistics on health care in our country, 8,000 residents in Oldham County still remain uninsured. That seems to be impossible. How does that happen? Everybody's supposed to have health care. But that's not necessarily the case. Those people who can afford it through employers or who have employers who subsidize it, those people are generally covered. It's the working poor in our communities who we find are the ones either without coverage or who have policies that have such high deductibles and premiums that they are unable to take the time, the money to go to a doctor because of their fear of the expense of what they will have for care. 7% of the patients in our clinic are at the 100% poverty level, which means they would be eligible for the state Medicaid program. However, most of that 7% is going to be either a legal or undocumented immigrant, and neither of those are eligible for any state or federal programs until they've been in the country for 5 years. So there is a small percentage of our patient base who we do see that can't buy insurance. 90% of our patients fall in the 140% income level, poverty level. That level excludes them from being eligible for the state Medicaid programs, but it does afford them to purchase policies that have some funding available to them. But again, those deductibles for those policies and the monthly premiums per person are typically out of the range of what they can afford. Not only are we providing the primary care, which is just like your regular primary care physician's office, we've noted over the past 4 years in doing a lot of data tracking that if we can implement wellness programs, that we can avert these people being seen in the doctor's office for unnecessary visits. And our two greatest initiatives right now are smoking cessation and preventing type 2 diabetes. And both of those are lifestyle changes. The two hardest things, because you can't use medication to change that, that's a personal choice. So by building relationships with this patient base, we are beginning to see improvement in those two areas and making great strides in the health of those in our community, thus making them more viable citizens, keeping them at work, healthier families, so forth. You can also see currently more than 50% of our patient base, 58%, reside in Oldham County. That's a high percentage, and obviously we would expect that because of just the demographics of being able to get to our clinic. We're able to see patients, we have an operating budget of $355,000. We're able to do that by using 2 part-time nurse practitioners, 13 volunteer physicians and nurse practitioners who reside in this community, 1 part-time nurse, 2 administrative personnel, 1 full-time administrator, and 1 part-time program coordinator who coordinates the smoking cessation program, and then 30 clerical and nursing volunteers. It's with their commitment to this clinic and to the mission and the vision of how we deliver care to our community that we are able to do what we do with the resources that we have. Last year, we had over 5,000 volunteer hours provided to the clinic, and the medical personnel and licensed personnel, such as nurses, donated in-kind services exceeding $114,000. So that generosity of the community has been integral in our success over the last 4 years. We're also working on a balanced funding stream. Since the beginning, grants have been critical and essential in our operation. We, in 2015, had 52% of our funding come from grants, and those are an assortment of grants that we have written for and received. Additionally, we're growing our base of donations from citizens. Our patients donate 10% towards the operation and the revenue of the clinic. That's pretty significant in our eyes because this, again, is the working poor. And then our local churches and corporate and civic groups are also donating to the clinic. The impact of what we do has been astounding to me. We currently have over 2,400 individual patients who have sought care at Hope Health Clinic since September of 2011, and that represents more than 15,000 patient visits. We've delivered more than $446,000 worth of medical and medical provider and laboratory services in 2015, and our patients paid $37,283 to receive these services. So we have a model that is engaging the patient and empowering them to take responsibility for their care. It's not a free and charitable clinic. In 2015, only 32 patient visits were not paid for. While we never deny a patient care, our patients realize the value of the partnership that we establish for them, of what we give them and what we expect for them in return to provide this care for them. Why does it matter? Again, more than 8,000 Oldham County residents are still uninsured. A family of 3 at the 140% poverty level, which denies them the ability to be on Medicaid, would typically earning $27,000, $821 a year. They're not eligible for Medicaid. Some assistance is available for premiums, and they may pay $20, $30, or $40 a month in premiums per person and have a $300 to $500 deductible. If you add all of that up, that's pretty significant. But the next level of poverty, the federal poverty level at the 200%, let's say we had a family of 2 making $32,000, their premiums per month for each individual under the Connect plan, and this comes from a Connect individual who actually was writing this policy, the monthly premiums are $181.97 per person, with a $4,500 deductible for medical services such as physician laboratories and a $1,000 pharmaceutical deductible. You take that, add in their insurance premiums and what they would pay in FICA taxes, not income taxes, that reduces their income by $6,800 a year just to get some type of insurance coverage. It's kind of easy to see why some of these people say, I can't afford it, I'll pay the penalty. And while we don't endorse that, we have the reality facing us that these people need a place to get care. The gentleman on the screen, a short testimony about him. He is an Oldham County resident. His name is Roger, and he has graciously allowed us to share his story. He came to the clinic on a Tuesday night thinking he was coming for a follow-up on an ear infection. And shortly after arriving, he began telling the nurse who was preparing him for the visit with the provider that he'd been extremely fatigued. He felt like he had had an elephant on his chest. And immediately we got a provider to see him, and because of a very nice donated piece of equipment, we were able to perform an EKG there in the clinic. Now, most of you know we're on the campus of the hospital. We could have easily said, hey, we think you're having heart problems, you need to go over to the hospital. But we were able to diagnose immediately what was going on, and he was in some type of cardiac distress. The part that shocked us was it took almost 20 minutes to convince him he had to go to the emergency room. And he didn't want to, we were ready to call EMS, which is around the corner, to take him, but he finally allowed a volunteer to take him over to the hospital. And within 45 minutes, he was in the ICU, and the following morning had surgery for a 99% stent blockage. That night when we were speaking with him, the reason he wouldn't go to the emergency room was his fear of his bills, and that he could not do that to his family. After we assured him we would work with the hospital for financial assistance, we would make sure that any other resources were available to him, we were finally able to get him to go to get the next level of care he needed. That's hard for us to imagine as individuals because we would have immediately gone. But that's the level of fear that's prevalent in people who don't have access to care, or who have the concern about what it's going to take for them to get care. I will say, an individual making $7.90 an hour, working 40 hours a week, doesn't qualify for the Medicaid program in this state. They make too much money. That's your local people working in your fast food restaurants, taking care of your kids in daycares and nursing homes, driving school buses part-time for our school system, even people working in some of your contract vendors here in the local jail system as well. That's why in the first quarter of 2016, more than 131 new patients were seen at the clinic, because the need is still there, and they know it's a place where they can come and get quality care in a compassionate environment.
Well, you've probably suspected that we've come to ask for your all's help. So why should you support Hope Health Clinic? Low-income residents have access to care and medications, allowing them to continue working, supporting their families, and contributing to your local economy. We also have a proven record of keeping people out of the ER for unnecessary visits, and that affects your ambulance runs also, which does impact your all's budget. We are a safety net for residents who are being discharged from the hospital who do not have an established primary care physician. We set ourselves up as that in order to be a true partner to the hospital and to the medical community. So we see them, we assess them, we find the medications for them, and then we look and see what is the most appropriate long-term primary care solution for this person. They may be too rich for Hope Health Clinic, in which case we encourage them to go to one of our other doctors. They may be more eligible for Medicaid, and we get them to the right connector to get them signed up for that. You all were here for us in the beginning. We had a nice grant from you for $10,000, and we are asking you to consider that grant again in order to help us continue into the future. As Janet said, we're heavily reliant on grants. We don't have that big grant we had in the beginning. And so we're broadening our ask to county governments, not just this one, and churches and businesses, and we hope that you will help us. And thank you. And we have some packets which include our most recent financial statements in it. So all of this is in there, so you don't have to take notes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Marcia. Does anyone have any questions or anything they'd like to ask about the clinic? Magistrate Likens?
Thank you, Judge. I was just going to ask for their financial statement, which they gave to us already.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. Very nice presentation. And I appreciate Janet and Marcia and the other members of the Hope Health Clinic support team who are here today. Thank you very much. All right, now we'll move on to pay the bills under tab A.
Judge, I motion to approve the bills.
All right, moved and seconded. Are there any questions about anything that is on the
I've got
in the
one.
payables? All right, Magistrate Sparks?
On page 3, we have $7,000 for jail replace stoves, and then on page 8, we have another $1,000 on jail stove repairs. I'm just curious, did all of our stoves die at the same time, or, I mean, were they couldn't survive?
Magistrate Eldridge, I believe.
The one stove was replaced, and it is a stove that is compatible and will be able to be used at the new building. And the other stove was a repair, different stove. I had asked that earlier in the week by email.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else have any question about anything on the agenda? Or on the payables? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you. Now we'll discuss our CAECO insurance premium renewal for 2016-17. I'm going to ask Melissa Horn to go through this.
CAECO has presented us with the renewal for both our liability insurance and our workers' comp. The liability insurance for next year would be $510,250, and the workers' comp premium would be $225,044. In comparison, the amount we paid this year for liability insurance was $508,000, so it's a 1% increase. And for the workers' comp, this year we paid $198,000, so it's a 14% increase.
These figures on the first part of the premium there represents about a 1% increase, and the workers' comp is up about 14%, although we've had claims. So, is there a motion to accept?
Judge, I'll make that motion that we accept the offer of the premium here of a total of, you want that one total, don't you?
Sure, that's fine.
$735,294, and authorize you to accept it.
Second.
All right, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain, all right. Thank you. That'd be 8-0, or one abstention. Yeah. The next item has to do with the second reading for the loan agreement for Stockyards Bank for the new jail. Going to ask Stan Clark to come forward, review that with us once again. This will be a public hearing, and after Mr. Clark's presentation, if there's anybody here who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this second reading of this ordinance, you'll be able to do so.
Okay.
Clark?
I never know. It's a 3-page ordinance. Do we need to read the whole thing or
Oh, I
just the
think
summary?
it can be summarized with,
Okay. This is an ordinance of the fiscal court authorizing the execution and delivery of a loan agreement between the county and Stockyards Bank and Trust Company, and the issuance and execution and delivery of related revolving revenue anticipation note of the county to Stockyards Bank. As explained at the last fiscal court, this is a $5 million basic line of credit that we will use during the construction of the new detention center. The stated interest rate is prime. It's a very preferred interest rate. The goal here is to avoid what a lot of counties do in government agencies where they have to fund a project and issue bonds at the very beginning, triggering interest to start day one before they even put the spade in the ground. We have started the project using reserves, and we will use this loan to borrow money to pay the bills as they come in up to a point, and then issue a series of two bonds, because part of the debt on the jail detention center we can get tax exempt at a lower rate, and some of it we cannot. So the intention is to use this, and we believe between reserves and this, it'll take us into around November, in which case we will issue approximately a $10 million bond at that time to pay this off and pay bills that are coming due at that time. Then once that money is used up, which we expect to be within 60 days, because there's timing of cash flow and stuff, we've done some projections with the general contractor and it's based on when he thinks certain work is going to be done in a certain amount of money. It's subject mainly to weather more than anything. If we get weather delays, this may push it all back. But the goal then is to actually borrow again on this debt, this line as needed, up until the point that we anticipate about June of next year. It'll be time to borrow the final amount needed on the jail, and that's approximately $7 million. But there's factors that could make that actually be less. So it gives us room to play, to borrow exactly what we need and borrow it when we need it. But the ideal then would be that debt will be issued next June, and then this Stockyards loan agreement would be paid off, and that would be the end of it.
Do you need a motion, Judge?
All right, now, at this point, I'm going to ask, I'm going to open the public hearing section of this particular part of the agenda. Is there anybody here who would like to speak in favor of this ordinance or in opposition to this ordinance? Seeing no one, I'm going to close the public hearing portion of the meeting or of the agenda and ask for a motion.
I'll make that motion, Judge.
Second.
On ordinance to approve ordinance KOC 16220-119.
All right, this is an ordinance of the fiscal court allowing for a loan agreement between the fiscal court and Stockyards Bank for a letter of credit of up to $5 million. And is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
Roll call.
I don't think that required a roll call vote, just an ordinance. The next item here has to do with the first reading of a proposed fireworks ordinance. Now, I'm going to try to handle this a little bit differently than we've handled some of ours in the past. And what I'm going to do is read this ordinance, and then I'm going to ask for if there's any discussion. If there's discussion and suggestions about changes here, I'd like to ask that those recommendations be made and members of the fiscal court be able to vote on those recommendations and then be incorporated into a first reading that we would put out in the various media for people to study. And then we'll have our second reading here in a month. And when the second, is that second reading going to be at the next meeting or in 30 days?
First meeting in June.
First meeting in June? Okay.
Judge,
If
we
there
don't
are,
have a copy of this, Judge.
you don't have the copies? Well, why don't we take a 5-minute recess? I believe everybody should have the ability to read with me as I read it aloud, that can read silently.
You need a
So-
motion, Judge, for?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion that we have a 5-minute recess.
5-minute recess. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can you make more of this? My goodness.
So we're just gonna read through this once, and that's gonna be considered the first reading?
Well, no, if anybody has any changes they want to recommend, let's bring them up now, vote on them, and either incorporate them in or not.
I don't.
Then we will publish
I've got it on my phone.
out of the discussion of the first reading. Then when we come to the second reading, we already approved what we're
And
going
what was
to do.
that?
We're not going to have an alternate here. We need to have another first reading and another second reading.
What's this for?
Oh, that'll be the first reading in 2 weeks.
Right, we don't have, I have a first reading yet, we won't have a first reading until we finish our discussion here on what's gonna be in here. The committee of the whole is gonna decide.
I had no idea.